Hi, welcome to Boxed Out, a conversation on affordable housing. I'm your host, Amanda Lynn, and I'm here today with our housing team from the local Joyce L. Sobel Family Resource Center. I'm very excited to have a conversation with you all about housing needs in the Friday Harbor community. Thanks for being here. First, I want to introduce my guests. I'm here with, as I said, the Joyce L. Sobel Family Resource Center team, which is one of the primary supports for low-income folks in our neighborhood, especially those who are in crisis. So I'd love to have you all tell us a little bit more about your roles and your titles at your job. Can you do that?
Absolutely. I'll start off. Hello, I'm Jennifer Armstrong. I'm the Executive Director of the Family Resource Center. And really my role in housing is to oversee our housing contracts and develop relationships within the community and within the region to sustain those contracts, manage them, make sure that we have revenue flowing in that supports our housing programs. And otherwise, my colleagues are the ones here who are doing the really important work of direct services with people in the community.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Melissa Hope. I'm the Director of Services at the Family Resource Center, which includes housing and basic needs as well as behavioral health services.
And I'm Gail Leschine-Seitz. I'm a housing case manager at the Family Resource Center. I help with rental assistance, primarily applications to the apartments or other housing people might need or be coming across. I also focus on connection to other resources, financial and food, utilities, etc.
Amazing. Thank you all for your work. I think it's so important. Some of the most critical work that happens in our community is getting done by the Family Resource Center team. Can you tell us what you think is the biggest barrier to housing in the San Juan Islands? Maybe some of the common situations you hear from people who come to the Resource Center?
Well, primarily they can't find or they can't afford rentals. So the accessibility of long-term rentals that people can afford has gone down over the years. Definitely there's the issue of vacation rentals that everybody brings up, but I think also people have started to use their rentals on their property for their own families that might need help. And people have sold houses and torn down, structures that were older. And so we've had a loss of those lower cost houses for people. And what I find is clients are disappointed when they go out in the market. They're surprised that there's nothing available. They're also often they think they are working out some deal with a landlord only to find that it falls through, so they're disappointed. The costs of high moving costs are really hard for people, so it's great that we have a program that can help with moving costs because that's a huge limitation. And we have a ton of seniors on fixed incomes, and they don't even know how they're going to stay on the island. Literally, they're priced out so far from ability to afford anything private that they're just waiting for the subsidized apartments, basically. So, and we have the largest population of seniors in the state, over 65 and over 85. So that's a huge issue for us here.
Yeah.
Yeah, additionally, there are extremely long wait lists for those affordable apartments and subsidized units. And when you have seniors who may need assistance in their homes, it's very hard to have them wait a very long time, with the other option being leaving the island. So there's some pretty tough barriers.
Yeah. Well, and as you know, Amanda, because with the Home Trust, construction costs out here are formidable. And so, when you look at it just logistically too, in terms of developing more affordable housing, there's a big cost to it, higher than on the mainland.
For sure.
I also think, in some ways we haven't caught up with some of the policy changes that maybe we've seen in other parts of the region. I think it'd be really interesting to look at policies around accessory dwelling units and their use as long-term rentals and incentivizing something like that.
Yeah.
So I think you could do a whole episode just on ADUs and what's happening in the state and how they're being used to help address some of the housing shortages in other communities.
I agree. And I hear that ADUs are actively being explored locally by both the town of Friday Harbor and the county, which is great. I think it's definitely something that is being taken really seriously as a solution, which is awesome. So my next question for you all, I would love to know about some of the successes that we've had locally. I think we've done some really innovative things. We're a very tight-knit community here in the islands, and I think that shows in the way that we do our work. And I would love to hear about some of the successes that you've seen or that you feel we've had around low-income housing on San Juan Island. Yeah.
Well, despite the long wait list, I do think that us having 5 affordable housing apartment complexes here on the island has been really huge. They're always full, but when they do have openings, they work hard to get people in quickly, and they work down their lists as fast as they can. So that's just the fact that we have that housing here is really important. I'd love to see a couple more complexes, but
Yeah.
and we work really well with local landlords, both the managers of those apartment complexes as well as individual landlords, and I think that's been a huge benefit for us is working to maintain those relationships. It's helpful not only for prospective tenants, but for us in pairing with prospective tenants to help them get into new housing or to sustain their current housing. We understood, for example, in the pandemic, we understood that the landlords are impacted as well. Many of our private landlords rely on their rental income to help pay their mortgage. Mm-hmm. And so taking late rent payments or non-existent rent payments is not an option for them. Mm-hmm. And so I think we had really a lot of success with the support that we received from both the federal, state, and local government during the pandemic time to be able to keep people in their homes, to be able to keep landlords paid, even when folks were not able to work or had other struggles. So yeah, we've had a lot of successes with that, and I think the relationships, again, is really key. This being such a small community and us knowing everybody and everybody knowing us and that sort of thing really has helped everybody come together with the same goal, which is to keep people housed and not see folks losing such a stable or such a foundational aspect of their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times if landlords know that the client is working with the Family Resource Center and getting support for other things and that we're going to follow through with them case managing, mm-hmm. they feel a lot more comfortable having somebody in their unit mm-hmm. and knowing that they have that backup.
Yeah.
And that we're looking out for them.
I would add in too, just as a success at a higher level, is I think we're at a point where our community really cares about this issue.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we saw it happen with the real estate excise tax, which was a lot of work and a big push, but well supported in this community. And certainly as we're coming up on county council elections, affordable housing is at the forefront. That was not the case 10, 15 years
true.
ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think as a community, we've really come together around this issue, and people are invested and care about it. Mm-hmm. And it's important for us to keep that momentum going.
Yeah.
And make sure that people see some solutions. They've mm-hmm. worked hard to pass the REIT. We've also had great input from regional partners that I think sometimes community members aren't aware of. For example, the Opportunity Council over in Bellingham, mm-hmm. which handles a lot of the sort of regional money that comes from the State Department of Commerce that helps for homelessness prevention. They've been super active out here and in fact stepped in and purchased a whole apartment complex that was going to be turning from affordable units to relatively unaffordable mm-hmm. ones. They stepped in and bought that whole complex to keep it affordable. So we have some really powerful regional partners who are invested in affordable housing outcomes out here as well. And I view that as a huge success.
Absolutely. Yeah, can you, Melissa, you mentioned those relationships. I'm wondering if you all can talk a little bit more about the ways that you do work in tandem with other organizations like Safe San Juan's, mm-hmm. the Development Council, the Opportunity Council, all those folks. Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, we do. We partner with several local organizations, and as Jennifer said, the Opportunity Council's in Bellingham, so even regionally as mm-hmm. well. We have a lot of really close partners. We work with, Compass Health. Compass Health.
Well, I was going to say the
And
churches,
the churches,
are huge
local
in helping
churches.
providing extra funding. And we had like a situation where a church wanted to offer a rental on their property to a family, and so we were able to help identify a family that would be a perfect fit for that. And then I'm trying to think of who else do we work with that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Safe
Regularly.
San Juan's and the Compass Health. We've also partnered quite a bit with the hostel, San Juan Community
Oh, yeah,
Hostel.
hostel, sure.
They've been huge support, actually, with housing, especially for single individuals who may be here working and can't find housing or can't afford the market rate for housing by themselves. So we have a lot of individuals who we've helped to stay long-term at the hostel, and they've been great about keeping their rents fairly low and accepting long-term tenants, which is great, especially outside of the summer season. And local hotels as well have been really good partners with us in terms of crisis housing or very short-term emergent needs type of support.
And the Port of Friday Harbor.
Yeah.
We're lucky to have that too. I mean, Orcas and Lopez don't have as many choices for like the hostel for temporary housing. We have the boatyard, and we have the trailer park as well that have been really good partners in terms of if we have clients who need rental assistance and are having struggles, they're really open to helping.
That's amazing. Yeah, it sounds like you all are very dynamic and relationship-based in how you work, which is awesome. Can you give us a brief overview of what your different housing programs actually are at the Joyce L. Sobel Resource Center? I know you do some emergency rental assistance, manage vouchers, right? I'm kind of trying to just get a gauge on what all do you do?
Yeah, we primarily right now our programs are funded both federally and locally. We work with the Consolidated Homeless Grant, the CHG grant, which is administered by the Opportunity Council in Bellingham. However, we do have dedicated funds for San Juan County through that grant. And that's a big one that helps with move-in costs for folks who are rehousing. A lot of times that cost is prohibitive. The landlords ask for first, last, and deposit sometimes, which can be $5,000 to $6,000 at a chunk. And while families or individuals can afford the monthly rent, the move-in cost is prohibitive in a lot of ways, a lot of situations. So we do use that grant for that as well as for some prevention. They have some funds available for eviction prevention and housing stability as well. We use those funds to help folks who might have hit a bump in the road or have a health emergency or somebody loses their job, to be a bridge for them for a month or two in terms of their rent. We also partner with San Juan County, of course, and then the Community Foundation. We do get grants regularly from both of those organizations, which is really important. And then, of course, donors and local landlords are a really important piece of that puzzle as well, that come together and provide support and funding for our programs too. So yeah, we have a variety of different streams of funding and different ways in which we can get creative and help people on an individual needs basis, which is really wonderful. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's it's really looking at the individual family and seeing what it is their needs are and matching that as closely as possible.
And that's the best practice too, we know, especially in small rural communities like ours, we really do need to be able to be dynamic and respond locally to whatever's happening. So it sounds like you all have really built in that level of flexibility in your programming, which is deeply impressive. How many years has the Family Resource Center been in existence? When was it founded?
So the Resource Center was founded in 1998.
Okay, wow. Yeah.
So it's been around a while now, and really, did not offer things like rental assistance initially. A lot of the sort of concrete social services really emerged back around 2008 when we had the
During
recession.
the recession,
And also, we used to have a local satellite office for the State Department of Social and Health Services, so DSHS, which provides some of those concrete social supports, but that office closed. And so increasingly, things have been outsourced to nonprofits like
Yeah.
ours through contracts to make sure that more rural, remote communities get access to those services.
To these basic needs
Yeah.
services. Yeah. Wow, that sounds really amazing. I'd love to shift our conversation a little bit towards what we need and what we could do. So my question for you is, if you had a magic wand and you could do anything to fix housing, what is the first thing that you would do to help the housing crisis?
Yeah, well, build more multi-story apartments, energy efficient for a variety of residence sizes, 1, 2, 3 bedroom, ones that can be subsidized. And to make use of space, we have to make enough units. Like she said, the apartment complexes have been the saving grace of our community, and so to have more of them available would be awesome. If you want to solve some other problems at the same time, you could make a sort of shared common areas or shared kitchen space, because we have a lot of seniors who could benefit from sharing, cooking and whatnot too. And so if you want, and to serve the issue of isolation too, we found that people at the hostel really like that shared kitchen because they can spend some time together. The Recovery Cafe has been super successful because people come together, they have a meal together, but they have their own, they have their own lives, but they come together to spend time together. So being able to have some multi-unit complexes quickly that could help with that would be good, because it just, more and more people are having to leave.
Yeah.
For sure. And then some rent controls potentially would be good, so that people can't raise the rates as quickly and as high as they do. I know it's been there's a lot to it, but it seems like it's been a shock to people on how much they've had to pay. In the past, I think people have been able to work through the summers and save enough money to get through the winter for rent, and I think now people are living paycheck to paycheck, and so in the winter we see this influx of people
An increase.
Yeah. So also, I don't know what's available to try to help with those issues of employment and finances during winter months, but building some things and having things available now would be great. And also ADUs. You guys talked about ADUs already. That to have more dwellings that are available just get used for rentals, and I've had to say, we have a lot of people that have been trying since we've been talking, the discussion's been happening. It's been amazing to see how people are like, I've never rented this out before, but I'm willing to rent a room in my house. And that's wonderful. Again, we need the long-term rentals. A lot of people have storage units. There's so many people with storage units because they've had to move so many times and they have such a small space. But it's great that people are trying to be creative and trying to support their neighbors with opening up their homes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, transitional housing, emergency housing. That's another area where we're in desperate need. Some people aren't, they undergo a crisis, or, a relationship falls apart, or a health issue happens, and they're going to have to make a big life change, and just having somewhere that we can put someone for 4 to 6 months while the solid long-term plan is ironed out is so critical. We see it all the time in cases of domestic violence where, the only option is to leave the island. If you have children, that means pulling them out of school, leaving a job. Having more transitional housing has always been a need out here. And I certainly know from looking at the time and energy that both Melissa and Gail have put into those transitional situations where people have lived here for years and want to continue living here. Sometimes the only option has been to have them move off island for
a while.
6 months until something opens up, and then they move back on. And when you think about the time and money spent on all that versus having something locally available,
Yeah.
Totally.
there's no comparison.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Gail, you touched on this a little bit. I'd like to explore a little bit more. I've always believed that we really can't look at housing in a silo. A lot of the way that I came to housing work was seeing other social issues and how much housing was compounding those issues, or lack of housing was compounding those issues. And so I think a lot about things like addiction and food insecurity, incidences of domestic violence in our community, and the way that these things are tied together because of lack of housing. And I wonder if you could speak to that a little.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. It can be like a domino effect, right? I mean, unstable housing is a huge stressor for folks and impacts so many other areas of their daily life: mental health, physical health, substance use, employment issues. I mean, it can really domino or snowball down. And the FRC provides, a range of supports around that when somebody is experiencing crises like that. So we don't just work with folks on housing alone. When somebody comes in, we develop stability plans with them that take into account everything they're going through and sort of the totality of their lives and their family and what they see their needs as. And we come up with ways to support their entire situation, whether that's directly through us or through our partners. But we're really focused on supporting the whole situation, not just housing, because you're right, it's a multi-layered, intersectional issue that impacts every area of somebody's life. For sure.
When someone comes in and fills out a form, it's amazing to go over their budget, and then we find, oh, well, you can get some utility assistance. Oh, you have credit card debt. Maybe you need to do debt consolidation. We can give so many other ideas that will help them with their funding sources. So it's been, internet. People will be paying so much money for their phone service they haven't looked into further, health care, for instance. So to try to help them figure out how to lower costs in general will really help them with rent as well. So it is all tied together, and who's in their household, and that too. So, how many people are in their household, if they have two incomes, if they're splitting up with, people go through divorce. There's a lot of times when neither people can afford the next step, and so trying to help people through that and realizing it's an emotional issue as well. So they need support with counseling. Their kids need support, so it's, we do whatever we can.
Yeah, we connect folks with lots of other supports. So we have got the Community Wellness Program, which provides counseling support, and we've got the Recovery Cafe that provides support with recovery issues, and that can be recovery from anything.
Sorry, I think we're just going to take a quick 2-minute commercial break, and then we will come right back to that, Melissa.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to Boxed Out. Melissa, you were telling us a little bit about your dreams for affordable housing, or bringing in kind of your expertise and what you've seen. Can you finish telling us about what you would change or what you'd love to see happen?
Oh, sure. And I was just mentioning some of the resources that we have within the Family Resource Center that kind of complements the vision for that. And along with our Community Wellness Program, which offers counseling, income-based counseling services. So it's affordable for folks for the most part. Our Recovery Cafe provides services for folks in recovery, and that can be recovery from anything, whether it's a mental health experience, substance use, past trauma, divorce, anything that we're recovering from, which we all recover from stuff throughout life. So those kinds of resources, that wraparound service, you can imagine if somebody is a single parent or a senior and they are not sure where they're going to sleep next week or next month, or they're living in a home that has inconsistent heating or insufficient heating. Don't know how they're going to pay their water and electric bill. Those kinds of stressors, it impacts everything else. And so that kind of holistic approach is really important. And I think that all of our partners, both in-house and in the community, play vital roles in that.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think especially just living on an island inherently, we have to pull together a little more even than other rural communities, just based on the inherent challenges of living here. Well, I think this is a great time to pause the conversation. For the audience members who maybe don't know, part of the Boxed Out show is going to be taking community calls. And so we will be continuing this conversation next week. You'll be able to view and hear those community calls that are coming in. But for now, I would like to thank you all so much for coming in and sharing the important work that you're doing at the Family Resource Center. I'm very, very grateful for the way that you're supporting all of the folks on the fringe of this island. And thank you all so much for being here. Your support is greatly appreciated.
Thanks for having us.
Amanda.